Hey everyone, welcome to Amberg Acres. So seeing Barb's gone for the weekend, we're gonna bake some cookies in her oven. Shh, don't tell her. If you tell, I'm gonna know who did it. Wonder how these taste raw. Not quite what I expected. Welcome back. So I lied a little bit. I am not going to use Barb's oven. She would kill me if I used her oven. I think she would kill me even if I was cooking regular cookies in her oven, because I'm not supposed to have regular cookies. So we're going to use the Traeger behind me here, and we're just doing a test today. So Jacob and I cut these cookies a while back. These have been probably sitting here a month. Okay, so we cut some cookies and we cut some slabs. All right. My intention for using these cookies and these slabs is to make, I already showed you the cribbage boards. Okay, so we have the cribbage boards we want to make. The other thing is going to be signs. So if I'm going to make a sign on this, or say turn it into a cutting board or something else like that, it's going to be inside somebody's house. The fact that it's in somebody's house, you want to bake this so that you get rid of the bugs, okay? That you're going to kill any kind of insect that may be growing in this lumber. Now, the problem with air drying, okay, so I have all this lumber I sawed, these 2x6s and 2x8s and whatever I sawed here earlier in winter, back in January. So it's just sitting out in the open. It's covered, you know, it's got a little tarp over the top of it to keep it dry. But it'll attract bugs just sitting there, you know? So air drying is not the answer. You still have to, if you're gonna make this so that this is in somebody's house, you still wanna bake it. And the temperature that I was told is about 135 degrees. So basically a little bit above the boiling point will kill any insects that are in this wood. And then you can make it into whatever you want, and it can go in somebody's house and you should be okay. So my experiment today is going to do two things. One, I want to see how hot I can cook this wood, and is it going to crack, for one. And the other question is it actually going to dry? You know, is it actually going to dry the wood out in just a few hours of baking it in an oven? So I have my moisture meter here. So like I say, these have been sitting around for a month, and they're just sitting out here along the garage. I had some sitting on my trailer. So they're probably very wet, I would think, you know? So I'm gonna stick this in there. I don't know how well you can see that. 23.5%. 22.8%. So now these two pieces that I just checked, I literally just went and grabbed them off the trailer up there in the yard up there where I store my trailers. This piece, and I did two of a piece of each. So this piece I coated with a stain, an oil-based stain. So this is just I think it's Varathane brand, Jacobine color, which none of that matters. It's just an oil-based stain that you would stain furniture, and then you'd varnish over it. So all I did was I soaked both sides with stain, and I want to see, does this help it to not crack? Okay. Now the problem with the stain is you would probably have to start out with a 2-inch slab, put the stain on there, and then cut all this stain off if you wanted to make something out of it, because this stain, I mean, this just literally soaked in. You could have poured it on there and it just soaked into this wood. So let's see what this one reads. 24%. So then the last thing I want to try is an oil-based paint, okay? Now this I put on, in one of my last videos I was doing the siding for inside the barn that I'm going to side the walls with. And I painted the ends of those logs before I sawed them, okay? And I just used my old Packer colors. It was an oil-based paint, you know, and whatever. And that's what this is. This is just an old oil-based paint. It's gold. I don't even know what I used gold on. It's been sitting in my garage for so many years. So I'm just kind of using it up to try this stuff and see. I want to see what works, okay? They have a product out there called Anchor Seal, and it's very expensive. And that's supposed to be, according to the guys that do this all the time, the Anchor Seal is supposed to be like the best product out there. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't used it. So I'm just trying some other stuff that people suggest, and this here is an oil-based paint. And that's supposed to help the ends from cracking. It's supposed to slow down the process because the wood dries from the end. So it's going to slow down the process so this board should not crack as easy. So we're gonna test that all out today by baking it in the oven and see what happens to these boards baking it in the oven. 22.3. So basically all this wood is about the same, okay? For moisture content, it's very close to the same. So then the last piece is the same thing. I used that oil-based paint on here, and this is just for a test. If I can't use these cookies after I'm done, it's no big deal. I got plenty of wood around here to cut more cookies. So I just wanted to do this for a test and see how it works. Now this one already, in a month, it's already showing cracks, and I don't know, maybe on the other side you can see it here better. It's already showing cracks from it drying. So we're gonna test this out. We're gonna cook it in the Traeger there, and I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna cook it at about 300 degrees, maybe 350. Yeah, we'll go 300. And we're gonna see for 4 hours. We're gonna cook it for 4 hours, and we're gonna see what it does to this wood. And then we're gonna test it again afterwards and see if it actually dried the wood or if it just cracked it and made a mess. But later on I have something I want to show you, and it's what I made to actually air dry the smaller pieces that I'm going to be working with, because I don't want to wait a year or 2 years for these slabs I cut. I cut all these 2-inch thick slabs and stuff that I'm going to make some benches for in the barn, and other stuff with them, maybe some tables. Who knows where it'll go. But you got to wait almost 2 years for that stuff to dry sitting out in the field like that. I wanted to make up a way to dry this wood in a little bit quicker fashion. So I'm going to show you that later, all right? So right now, let's get going on the cooking, on the baking, the cookies, and we'll see how it turns out, all right? All right, it's starting to smoke here, so that means it's ready to close the lid. I was not able to get them all in there. I got the painted one that I used the oil-based paint on, and I got the one that I used the stain on, and we'll do them first, and then I'll come back later and I'll do the two that are not coated with anything and see the results between the two of them. So we're going to turn this up to 300 degrees, and we're going to let her cook. We're going to let her cook for 4 hours. All right, so it's been cooking for over an hour. So let's just take a peek in there and see what it's at. Thermometer says it's at 300. You can definitely see, especially by the knots, you can see moisture coming out of there. I hope you can see that. You can see it there by the knots. You can definitely see moisture coming out of there. All right, so we'll let that keep cooking. So here's a question for you guys. At what temperature will wood spontaneous combust? If you're baking it like this here, at what temperature will wood just burst into flames? So leave it in the comments. and we'll see if anybody gets it right. And you can't look it up on the internet like I did. Just kidding. I have that other thing to show you here. Let's go take a walk over there and we'll show you that. So this is another one of those make the wife feel good projects I'm making out of this raw wood that we're cutting up here. And these were just like the leftovers, the scraps, the wavy lumber that I'm making this out of. And they're planters. We used the blue barrels. We had some blue barrels sitting around here, so we cut those in half, and they're planters for her new greenhouse. And I'll take you over in a little bit and show you her new greenhouse. But this is what I wanted to show you. It's a drying box, what I'm calling a drying box. So I'm trying to speed up the process with these little pieces, you know, the cookies, the little planks that I'm cutting for making signs. I'm trying to speed up the process so I don't have to wait a year. My first thought was to put a heater in here. And using an electric heater, I thought that would be just too expensive to run, basically, is the bottom line on that one. Some people have suggested converting it into some type of solar, put a piece of plastic on here and whatever to make it a solar. And that's an option down the road. But for right now, I'm just going to try and use a fan and see if I can speed up the process, the drying process on these planks. Because sitting out here on my trailer or on these piles where I have all these 2x6s and 2x8s, even if I put a plastic tarp over it, it's just to me it seems like it's just not ever going to dry out, because we have 100% humidity right now because it's been raining for 3 days, and it's not going to dry, you know. So I'm going to try and speed up the process. I don't have any room in my barn. I don't have any room in my garage, so I can't put it in there. So I made this box. And I have a piece of metal sitting over here that I'm going to put on the roof. So at some point I can get it out from under this lean-to and just set it out here somewhere, as long as I have an electrical thing to run the fan. You know, just see if that speeds up the process of drying these cookies and stuff, and see if I can, you know, at least get a batch or two every summer. You know, then I'll have stuff for the winter to work on, making signs and whatever. So let's look inside here. So I basically have a bunch of slabs stacked up there with stickers, and then the same cookies that I'm cooking in the oven. And there's some longer pieces right there, and then we made some angled cookies, if you want to call them that, whatever you want to call them, cookies. And then I have a few other odds and ends here that I'm going to stick in there to try and dry better. And I'm just going to use a box fan for now. I'm going to turn it on. It's going to just blow air through them and keep the air moving through them. Okay, I'm not even going to seal up. You can see there are gaps. This stuff is already drying. I had this pretty tight together, and it's already drying quite a bit. So I'm not going to worry about that. The air is just going to flow through it and help speed up the drying process. Okay, so I got two doors on here. So after loading this the first time, there's an issue with this board here. I have to bend down and get underneath it to get the stuff in there. So one would be raising this up a little bit off the ground would help. Two would probably be maybe cutting a notch in here so I can actually step right inside there to load it up. So those might be some changes that I'll do to it down the road. These handles came from my pal Craig over at Squirrely Acres. So if you haven't watched his channel, go over and watch his channel. He's working on a fireplace right now and a camper at the same time. He's redoing a camper, and he's getting an insert put in his fireplace in his house. So go over there and watch his channel too, you know. And he came over one day and he had some angle iron and these handles. I don't know what these are off of. If they were even handles, I don't know what they were for. But I used them as handles for my doors here, and they worked out pretty good. So we're gonna get this going. I'm thinking what? Check it in a month and see what the percentage of dryness is. These are all at the same, these were all in the same spot as the ones I got in the oven. So they're all at 23% right now. And what do I want to get them down to? I don't know. You know, if it's outside here, you're never going to get them down to 5%. I don't think you will ever get them to anything like that. I suppose I could check. Let me do that. Let me go get a 2x4 that I got sitting here that it came from the lumber yard. That's under the barn there. It's been under the roof all winter. So let's go get a piece of that and let's check the dryness on that once. All right, so I went and grabbed a couple pieces of wood. This is a store-bought 1x4 that was laying in the barn here on top of some other stuff. And the sides are open on the barn. They've been open all winter, so it's been exposed to the air, but it's been under a roof. 17.7%, okay? So that ain't much drier than the stuff that I just put in the oven. So this was a piece that's been sitting in the garage all winter, all right? Store-bought 2x6, 11.4. Just for shits and giggles, I went in there and I checked the legs on my workbench in there, which are made out of regular 2x4s, store-bought 2x4s. It's never been outside ever. It's always been either in my basement. When we moved up here, it's been in the garage the whole time. It was at about 10.4%. I guess ultimately, if I could get these ones that are at 23% down to around 10%, I'd be happy. That would be good, you know? And that's what I would start making a sign on them. So I tried cutting a piece of that white pine that I cut up. I tried cutting it on the laser in there, and it did make an indentation where it was trying to cut, but it did not burn the wood. It did not make it brown like you want it to, so that you can see the image or whatever you're lasering into the wood, whatever design you're doing. Ultimately, if you could get the surface down to dry where it would mark on the laser, that would be okay. But then you're giving somebody a product that isn't fully dry, and they're going to hang it up in their house, or they're going to, you know, whatever they're going to do with it, hang it on their camper at their campsite or whatever, and it's going to crack or something, you know? So my goal would be to try and get this stuff dry enough that the cracking is all done, and whatever I make out of it, it's going to stay like that and look good, and try and speed up the process. That is my goal. So we'll get back to you once the cookies are done in the oven, and we'll see what those come out to on this meter once I'm after 4 hours of cooking. All right, so it has been about a month since I put this wood in here, and we're gonna see what it tests out at. I'm actually surprised there aren't more ants in there. I was really expecting a lot of ants. So this is the first piece right on top inside the box here. Look at a big crack in it from drying. So let's see what this tests out at. 11.2%. So that's pretty dry already. 13.5%. So the piece I've been waiting for is this one here. I have a cribbage board ready to go to make out of this board. So that's one of the reasons I set this up. I wanted to get this one done. 12.7%. 12.2%. See what it is out on the ends here once. 12.1%. So that's a month in with just a fan blowing on it, stacked in a box like that. So that's a month. So I actually think that worked pretty good. Now if you could do that with your big pieces, that would be great, but I don't know how you would do that without building a big building, you know, or something. That's good to go. I think that's gonna work now. Let's let's dig down in a pile here and get a piece from the bottom and see what that measures. All right, so this is the third piece up from the bottom. 11.3%. Out towards the edge here more, 13.6%. 13.5%. Now remember, these were up around 20% when I put them in there, right? If I remember correctly. That's pretty good. I don't think you're gonna get them much more than 10% around here and around this area, because you have the humidity. It's been wet. What, the last couple weeks? Last couple of weeks, it's been raining every other day almost. We had 3 inches of rain at a crack at one point there. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get it much lower than what it is. And they look nice. They're not cracked. These are not painted on the ends. So now I'll take them out of this box and we'll see, you know, what they end up at in a couple weeks or another month, just sitting around, if they crack some more or not. But they look pretty good. They'll make some nice signs. Let me grab one of these ovals down in here. Now this one definitely cracked pretty good right there, right through that knot, you know. 12.7%. 11.2%. It all depends where you're measuring it at. So I'd have to say that's a success. So that was about a month. Now I don't know, I haven't tested any of my wood back there yet that's been just sitting out in the air drying. I haven't tested any of that, but that's been sitting there. I mean, I don't think it dries during the winter much, because you've got all the snow and everything and whatever, even though it's covered, you know. But when I get around to doing that, when I get around to opening up one of them piles, I will test it and see what it is. And I pretty much know when I put that wood back there, so I'll let you know in another video when I start working with that wood what it's at before I make anything with it. All right, guys, it's been 4 hours. So you can clearly see this one has dried up now. There's no juice coming out here. It's cracked on them knots a little bit, but actually the ends aren't too bad. There is a little bit of juice yet. It definitely cupped, you know. And the bark is kind of flaking off, which I expected that. This bark is real flaky to start with, so. All right, it's not giving me a reading, so I'm assuming it's too hot. So we're gonna leave this sit, let this cool down. I'm gonna shut this off. Let that cool down a bit. I probably should take them out of there, right? Take them all out. So this one here, you can still see a little moisture in it. Definitely cracked. This side isn't cracked as bad, but there's a big crack right here. Other than that, that one don't look too bad. And here's the one with the paint. Definitely some moisture coming out of it yet. Definitely moisture on that side. Definitely cracked around the center. There's a big crack there on the outside edge. And this is the piece on the bottom with the paint on the end. So it's definitely bubbling at the knots there. This bark is all ready to fall off. You can definitely see moisture there, but the ends aren't cracked. So that's a good sign. So maybe the paint is the answer. Little moisture here yet on the back side. So we're gonna let that cool down. I'll give it a half hour or so, maybe an hour cool down, and then we're gonna test it with that moisture meter and see what it's like inside. Well guys, when I took these out, I forgot about that I had 2 more here sitting there without any paint on them. So I stuck them back in there. And I set my timer for 6 hours now instead of 4 hours. Because these do not seem to be dry at all. So they feel dry on the outside. It you know, it like baked the outside. So it feels dry. But when I stick this meter in there, 24.4%. So I don't know if it brought the moisture out of the middle up to the surface, and that's what I'm reading. But I'd be curious to just stick these back in there, at least 2 of them, and see, you know, see what happens, see how bad if they get any better than what they're at, because really it actually made them moister than they were, if that makes any sense. So that one's a little better, 18.5, 25.4, 21.2. So really it didn't dry a thing, it dried the outside. So I'm gonna stick 2 of these back in there on top of those other ones and see what it looks like after 5, what do I got left? I think I got 5 hours left on the timer now. 4 hours and 30 minutes, so put them back in there for another 4 hours, so that would be almost 8 hours, right? Okay guys, I was just looking at the grill here, and we got about 3 hours to go. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about bugs in the wood. So even though you heat your wood up, you cook this wood and you kill anything that's in it. Once that's done, you can't just take your wood. If you go get your wood, your slabs or whatever, kiln dried, okay, by somebody that has a kiln, you have to take care of that after it's done. Okay, you cannot go and set it out in the field here, like I have my wood sitting right now, after it's kiln dried, because you'll still get bugs in it. And I'm gonna go take you over into my pole barn and I'm gonna show you. So we purchased that pole barn back in I probably ordered it in June and it was delivered in July. And then we took it off the truck and we pretty much just stacked it the way they had it on the truck. And we made it as level as possible and, you know, put it back here where I store all my stuff. We did not start it, and we took a trip. We went out west, okay? So we were gone until September. And when we got back, we started building that barn. And when we got up to putting the rafters on and I opened up the bundle for the purlins, they were 20-foot pieces for the purlins. Right in the middle of that bundle, there was a big nest of ants, okay? So they had already destroyed 2 complete 2x4s where they had eaten right through it, and they had damaged a couple others around that area. So even though you're cooking your wood, once it's done cooking, you need to take care of it. You need to put it somewhere in a nice garage where there are no insects. You know, once the barn is finished, I'll have rooms in there that I can put some of the stuff in. And you're gonna have to take care of it. And I'm gonna go show you an example now. Basically that same bundle of wood, and I threw other pieces along with it now. But let's go look in the pole barn here and let's go look at this piece of wood. So I was just cleaning up here a little bit. So I figured I'd get all this stuff moved. I started removing this metal. And look at them all. They're all over in this wood. Okay, so I'm assuming they recreated a nest. Even though I destroyed the other nest that they had last fall, they came back and they created a new nest. So this is kiln dried lumber. Doesn't matter that it's kiln dried. If you're leaving it sit outside, it's gonna get bugs in it. Just my point of why you're cooking your wood is to get rid of the bugs. Once it's cooked, you need to take it somewhere and put it somewhere decent, and you can't leave it sit outside anymore, obviously. I just wanted to show you this, just so you know. Doesn't matter if it's kiln dried or not. it's going to get bugs in it if you leave it sit outside. I'm going to let you know when I get done with those there what they dry at, what the percentage humidity is or moisture content is. I'll give you my take on baking cookies, okay? All right, guys. So where did we end up? So by the time that timer went off last night, I was already falling asleep in my happy chair in there. So I came out and I shut the grill off, and I took these and set them aside just so they'd cool off. And so everything should be stabilized now this morning. It's had plenty of time to cool off and rest, and maybe the moisture redistributes itself a little bit. I don't know. So let's take a look. So 4 hours. The black one here is 4 hours. Definitely some cracking going on, and this one was already cracked a little bit to start with. This side doesn't look so bad over here. So this morning that's saying 12.3. That's not too bad for 4 hours time. So this is the one we just did the ends. So now as far as cracking goes, there's a little bit of cracking, not much, just a little bit. It cracked by the knots. Obviously, I guess that's where the stress is at, right? $17.4 on the plank. So that only came down a little bit, about 6% only. That was in there for 4 hours, all right? So now we got the one that we did not paint or stain. This was in there for 6 hours. Okay, you can definitely see some good cracks up here. And this, for whatever reason, this looks wet yet here, right in the center. At 6 hours. On this side, you can see it here, kind of radiating out, but not too bad. So let's check it right in the center once and see what we get. So out towards the ends there, 19.7. It's really strange that didn't come down that much. I don't know why, but it's not giving me a reading in the middle. I don't know why that's doing that. I get up here, maybe it's beyond the range. Still right there in the middle. You do it out by the sides here, it works. Well, that one didn't come down much at all. All right. So that's no paint. No paint or stain. Let's try the board. The board definitely feels drier. It feels lighter. The bark is falling off in chunks, you know. Right in the middle, 17.8. Out towards the edge, about 15%. And then up on that end doesn't give me a reading again. About 15%. Okay, so now we got the painted one. The painted one was in there for almost 8 hours. You definitely can see some cracking all the way around. Doesn't look too bad. You could still make something out of it, you know. You could either fill those cracks in or just leave them the way they are and it gives the wood some character. So let's see what we get on this one. So being in there for 8 hours, it's still at 20% according to this thing. Right just outside the center is 12. So now on the boards themselves, I'm kind of surprised that none of this didn't crack. This should split right open here and just put a big crack. There's definitely some moisture there yet. 10.3. Towards the middle, 15 point. Oh, I didn't hit the hold button. I'm sorry. 15.4 towards the middle. I kind of got a feeling that my battery could be going bad in this thing because it is not giving me a reading at all on this piece. Let me try restarting it once. If I put it on my finger, it gives me a reading. It's not giving me nothing in the wood. That is strange. Could be the battery. All right, so what did we learn here today? that 8 hours on the grill or in your oven isn't necessarily going to take the moisture out of this board. Basically, the only thing it did was it heated this wood up that it should have killed all the insects that are in there, is really what it did. So what my suggestion would be is if you go and you air dry it like you normally do, and then when you get a customer or somebody that wants one for their house, inside their house, you take it and before you make it, you throw it in the oven for a little while, and to kill the bugs, any bugs that are in it, and then make your project and ship it out. But as far as drying the wood this way, the readings I'm getting, it barely came down in spots. So not sure if this was an accurate test or not. Going with them numbers, if you built a solar kiln or something, how long would it really take in a solar kiln? It must still take months to dry a stack of lumber in there, even though you're getting more heat. I would think it's still taking months. You still need the airflow. You still got to have air passing over it to carry that moisture away. Failed experiment? Not really. I learned some things here. I learned that I wouldn't waste my time trying to dry my lumber this way. So we learned that much. Will it kill the bugs? Yes, I think it will kill the bugs. But other than that, probably not a practical way of drying your wood. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you like these videos, always give me a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one.